Jesus loves music theater. I can't wait to see him do a show. I can't wait to see him sing and see him dance. I mean, what does that sound like? What does that look like?
Yeah.
But we get the privilege of partnering with Holy Spirit here. And we get to get a taste of that here on earth.
Hi, and welcome to the STORIA Podcast, where storytellers disrupt. I'm David Noroña, and before we hop into our very special episode where we're exploring the Bethel Conservatory of the Arts, the founders, instructors, and students' journeys and stories, please take a moment to like, subscribe, follow, download, and give us that 5-star review. Today, I have, again, one of my favorite people in the world, Lisa Noroña, one of the founders, who also happens to be my wife. Hey, babe.
Hello.
Good to have you back on STORIA.
Thank you.
And Lise, tell us a little bit about the two beautiful individuals that we have across from us over here.
Oh, yay. Two of my favorite peoples. We have Noah Kelly, who is a freshman, actually finishing up his first year, his freshman year at BCA in the acting program. So he's with us for 3 years. And then we have Jenna, who is finishing her junior year already at BCA in the acting program.
It's great to have you both on. And so what we've been doing is the STORIA Podcast, we interview all kinds of creatives from around the world, you know, filmmakers and pianists and dancers and painters. But we're taking a moment to do a series of episodes that features some of our program heads where, you know, at BCA, we've got multiple different programs. We've got acting, screenwriting, filmmaking, dance, music theater. And today I get the privilege of highlighting our music theater program. Now, in another episode, if you're catching this one, I want you to go back and watch the other music theater program with Lisa, where we talked a little bit about Lisa's beginning journey. But today, babe, I'm going to continue, kind of unpacking a little bit of your story. You know, in the last episode, if you didn't hear it, we got to hear about these sort of young girl quintessential Disney musical bedroom moments of you singing into this beautiful vanity and whatnot. But I want to explore another part of your journey, which is what you studied and the discipline that you had throughout your teenage years. What was the first art that you really kind of committed to and explored?
Dance.
What
Simply
kinds of
said,
dance? Yeah.
At age 12 to 18, my conservatory consisted mostly of dance and singing.
Wow.
And it was intense in my teenage years. It was like, 25-hour-a-week program. And yes, you bring up a good point. You do learn discipline, which is a life tool. You knew what it was like to work hard. You can take that wherever you go.
Yeah. And you came from a family much like me of like humble, socioeconomic background, not a lot of money. So you actually did things around the studio to kind of get tuition.
Oh yeah. I would clean. I would teach the younger students, make my way.
You just did whatever you needed to do because you had to do this thing called dance.
Yeah, absolutely. I really wanted to perform. I felt like that was where I was headed. That was my ticket. I didn't, things around me were not stimulating. There was nothing there. And so I just had this dream of moving to New York.
Wow. Which you would ultimately, consummate, and you would get there. You would get to that dream. But you went on another really fascinating, interesting journey as a music theater performer. What was your first international gig?
My first international gig was straight out of high school. I was blessed enough to book a job at Tokyo Disneyland. So I spent 6 months in Tokyo performing, learning the culture, and honestly being loved and adored. I love the Japanese culture, and they loved my eyes.
They did.
So we were a match made in heaven. To go into a foreign country, sometimes it's awkward. You might not feel welcomed or whatever. It was complete opposite. I love them, and I love the culture, the people, and I've always wanted to go back.
You were like a walking Disney princess walking around Tokyo.
Yeah, well, it was the start of what would be a kind of a little Disney career here and there. They always kind of came back, and I had these little moments with Disney.
Which we will get to. We're going to make the audience, we're going to tease the audience on a cliffhanger.
Okay, you want to find out what my Disney princess was.
I do.
Okay.
I do. And Jen, I'm going to be coming to you for a second, but before I come to you about the beginning of your creative journey and then Noah to you, who were your biggest fans at the Tokyo Disney Park? Who were your biggest fans? Yeah, you had fans that would come back
I do remember this one family in particular. They would love and take pictures of me, and just, they were just beautiful. And I didn't really fully get the big picture until I left, when she literally handed me 10 photo albums stuffed of pictures of me. Like me of every angle. It was just me. And I was like, okay, thank you. I was like, my mom will love you. And my mom did.
I'm sure she did. But my other thing is, I'm sure they made copies of those pictures. And so somewhere in Tokyo, on some family shelf, are 10 albums of you, which I would personally pay for. Jenna, tell me a little bit about your story. What was your genesis story as a young creative? What do you remember doing around creativity, storytelling, acting, singing as a kid?
Yeah, it started with singing for me. I loved to sing. I remember I loved Britney Spears when I was little. And I think it was probably like her first album. I had like the
Oops, I Did It Again.
Yeah, and I had like the VHS of like all of her, like the making of her music videos, and I would like reenact them, and I wanted to be like a singer when I was little. I was like, okay, I want to be a singer. This is it. And then gosh, I was probably like 6 years old when I watched The Sound of Music with my dad. My dad was into like community theater. So he was like, I want you to watch this movie, because there was like a production of it happening in my super small town. And he was like, I want you to audition. So I did. That was the first audition I ever did, was Sound of Music, and I didn't get it, but it was okay. And I braided my hair in the little, the little braids. I don't know, like Austrian braids, and wore a little dress.
Who were you auditioning for?
I think it was maybe the youngest. I was 6. I can't remember. Maybe the youngest.
It's Greta.
Yes, it was Greta.
It was Greta, because I was Kirk, and I in high school.
That's my dad's name.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Fun. So that was my first acting role, was Kirk.
Okay.
Whose one of 2 lines was 11 almost, which I still remember, which is amazing because I've been in a lot of things and I can't remember most of my lines, but I remember Kirk's. Huh. So your first blush with this was, well, there's a beautiful color here. First of all, there's an experience with your father. Do you remember watching it with your father? And what was that like for you as a little girl?
Yeah, my dad has just always kind of been like my hero, and especially when I was little, he was creative in my family, and he wrote songs and played guitar and would write little songs for me. And so he was the one that definitely sparked creativity in me and got me thinking about about actually doing that, and told me that I could actually do that.
So it's like he created the space and the possibility for you in relationship, which is really, really beautiful. I'm going to come back to you, Jenna. Noah, what was your first interaction, impression, collision with creativity?
Yeah, man. As a kid, you're in your room playing with toys, and you're like, every day is a movie. It's an acting adventure. I'm like, Batman's fighting Spider-Man. Let's do this.
He is, yep.
And my siblings would tease me because my entire closet, instead of clothing, was superhero costumes. So I had the Human Torch, I had Wolverine. That was like,
come on,
that's what I wore, and I ran around the yard. And so acting didn't feel like a far cry from what I was doing every single.
It was your day job.
It was my day job as a kid. I was like, this is awesome. And then people cheer at the end. I'm like, why didn't somebody tell me about this sooner? I'm the youngest of 4. My mom tried acting with every single one of my siblings, and it didn't really stick with anyone until me. And I remember my first ever performance. I couldn't tell you the context. I just remember so specifically, it was A Whole New World from Aladdin. And I was Aladdin, and I was singing on a carpet with my very first friend, Sophia Meyer. And I was like, this is the best thing ever. So it was just like little tiny things, little performances in the living room, until I ended up signing up for community theater. Very, very little. Every single summer we did Shakespeare in the Park. And so my first ever exposure to a full-length play or anything was Midsummer Night's Dream.
You've got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
That's profound, man.
A bunch of 7-year-olds speaking Shakespeare, memorizing Shakespeare.
That's deep tissue. Where did you grow up? What town?
New York.
Ah, okay.
Sleepy Hollow, New York. It's a real place. Yeah.
That's absolutely phenomenal. One of the themes I love to listen to we're recording these all in one day. And so I'm having the privilege of actually doing one of my favorite things, which is to have conversations with people about my favorite topic, which is stories and storytelling. But it gives me also an opportunity to catch what Holy Spirit is whispering, which is that, and I don't know that I've ever had this thought before, that the first stage is the home.
Mm-hmm.
The first sanctuary of creativity is really our bedroom. Like artist after artist after artist keeps saying the same thing. Like my bedroom was this safe place for my imagination. My wardrobe closet was where clothes should be, you know? I mean, for me, it was playing with like G.I. Joe and cars and things and imagining action scenes and, you know, G.I. Joe killing the bad guys and doing all of these things. And I love how for many girls, not everybody, it starts with the mirror and hairbrushes and Disney musicals or music videos. And for guys, it's like superheroes and, you know, just becoming that guy. And by the way, if you're listening to this but not watching it, ladies, it would make total sense as to why Noah was playing an Aladdin, because you totally could be cast in about 2 seconds flat.
Absolutely.
In that role. Lise, you go to Tokyo and you have this profound experience, cross-cultural experience. I mean, you were from, San Jose, from the Bay Area, so not a small town, but you had this sense, and you've often talked about needing to get out and to go to pursue dreams. And you had, in a prior episode, shared with us that you had this massive Cats poster of the musical, which was one of the big musicals at that time. Mm-hmm. But you had the courage and you took that leap of faith to not just go to Tokyo, but you made it to New York. Can you walk us through, because so many artists, I know for me, it was a similar dream. Talk to me about those first moments in New York, the significance of it. What stands out to you?
Yeah, when I arrived in New York, I was just about 19 years old.
Wow.
I knew one person. But you know, at 19, you're not thinking with the adult brain that I have today, right? Mm-hmm. So nothing else mattered except that you were in New York. Mm-hmm. Like I was there. I was in the city that I just loved. I loved the energy of it. I would just walk the streets and be surrounded by arts and creativity and just going, I'm auditioning, and this is going to happen. This is going to happen.
Talk to us about those first auditions. I mean, by the way, parenthetically, you're incredibly just bold and brave. I mean, 19 years old. I'm thinking about my daughter and sending her to the Big Apple.
Oh yeah, no way. We're not doing that.
Yeah, good luck with that, because our daughter's already taking multiple dance classes and, is doing this really interesting thing, like singing really loud from the bedroom, songs that she's making up and writing. So good luck with that.
The sanctuary.
Half of keeping our daughter out of the arts.
No, not out of the arts, but just not being alone in
at
the city.
19. Fair enough. Well, maybe we should start a conservatory, a safe place to take risks, and send our daughter there. So you walk the cities, and talk to me about those first auditions in New York. What was that like?
I think, like, I see it like this. I was a dancer first who sang, who eventually learned how to act. So in the early years, most of my auditions were through the dance call first. And then if you get through the dance call, then you get asked to sing.
Well, break that down for a little bit, because a lot of people don't know that there's a couple different ways into getting or landing in a musical.
Specifically for music theater. Right? Music theater, you go in as an actor who sings. And then usually the third thing would be dance.
That was me.
Right? And so, we're kind of the opposites in that way.
Yeah.
My first audition would be the dancer, then the singer, and then the actor. And honestly, for the first couple of years, I realized when they handed me sides, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. Because all I had taken was some commercial classes in San Francisco.
But you decided to do something about that, because many dancers stop there and they have amazing careers in the chorus, right? Singing and dancing and ensemble numbers and so on and so forth. But you had bigger ambitions. You had different ambitions. So what do you take the risk to go do as a 19-year-old in New York?
Well, but at this time when I realized I needed the acting.
Right.
Yeah, I was like 21. And I decided I was going to commit to staying in the city, because so many jobs take you outside of the city, which I love, because I love to travel. So the fact that I got to travel and do what I love to do, I was like, okay, I have arrived. This is great. This is the dream for me. Right. And so I decided to plant myself in New York for a year and just study acting.
Right. And so you studied the Meisner technique, which is a deep tissue kind of technique that gets actors really understanding characters from the inside out. I want to fast forward, though, to a moment where you and I were about to cross roads, and about a really beautiful gig that you did at Radio City music hall that was kind of a first that brings us back to your Disney journey. What happened?
Yes, the summer that I also met you.
Yes,
my
indeed.
future husband.
Your future Aladdin.
Yes, hello. No, yeah, that summer, I had booked a job at Radio City Music Hall, and I was the first Princess Jasmine to be played outside of the park.
I knew it.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that was very exciting. It wasn't the whole show or anything. It was just like they had a cast of few characters.
I can show you the world.
Yes, and you have.
Shining. And talk to us about the coolest theatrical moment.
Yeah, the neatest thing is they actually had like a carpet,
No,
but it was like
way.
animatronical or something. At the time, I don't know what they would do now, but at the time, the guy they flew them out from Vegas, this company, and in the wings, he was literally flying the carpet with a remote control like
up above
thing.
the stage and stuff.
Yeah, no. Me and Aladdin, we got to fly on the carpet, and not only on the stage, but it flew out. Radio City is just massive. I don't know if you've ever been there. It's massive, and it was able to fly out and go into the audience
Over
and
the
then come
audience?
back.
That's wild.
Yeah, and that was. I mean, come on, that's amazing. It was so much fun.
A real dream.
So much fun.
Absolutely stunning. Jenna, we're going to fast forward in your journey. We talked about these first few moments with your dad, Sound of Music, maybe not getting your first gig, but fast forward a little bit to those high school, college moments. Like, when do you start to decide, I think this is something I need to do with my life?
Yeah, that major decision didn't come till a little bit later for me. But in high school, I was in show choir. And yes, I love show choir. Highly recommend it.
Show choir is one of those things, I just need to say parenthetically, that kind of no sane person should enjoy watching, but doing it
So fun.
feels so good.
The most fun ever. Yeah, it's not that fun to watch, though. It really is not.
It's cheeseball.
But I loved it. And through show choir, I decided to audition for musicals in high school. I was from a really small town, very small high school. But
Where from? What state?
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
You know the little part of Oklahoma that sticks out to the side and everyone's like, what is here?
Yeah.
Like, what happens here? That's where I'm from.
Wow.
So, yeah.
You're from the hand.
Yeah.
From the hand.
I'm from the Panhandle.
Wow.
I'm a Panhandle girl. Yeah.
So you you do show choir. And what's this musical that you auditioned for?
So I did a few. Annie Get Your Gun.
Yes, you did.
And Beauty and the Beast. That was my junior year. And I didn't get Belle, but I did get Mrs. Potts, which was so fun. But my senior year, I got to play Maria in The Sound of Music, which is actually such a fun full circle moment that I didn't even put together till maybe like a couple years ago in BCA, that I was like, oh, I didn't even realize that was like my first introduction to musical theater. And then, one of the biggest roles I've gotten to
You know
play,
what I love about these moments is, I can't help but think of God as the author, right, of our story. And, great writing does these things where it establishes something at the very beginning. So like in the movie of your life, think about how caring the father is, right? How intricate he is, that in your story, he's like, you know what I want to do with Jenna? So she's going to audition for The Sound of Music, but as a little girl, she's not going to get it.
Yeah.
But then there's going to be this other scene in this movie, right?
Him, Holy Spirit, and Jesus in the
And Fade
writer's
to Black.
room.
No, little girl crying. No, but that it's so stunning that he would then bring that little thread back around and not just have you get a little part, but to have you get the lead. I mean, that's just like a good father to do. Like, it's almost so well written that you're kind of like, I'm not sure if I'm buying it.
It's true.
But it's true.
Swear.
True story. And playing Maria, what did it do to the inside of you? What does it start to do to you?
I think that was like kind of the initial point of confidence growing in me, of like, oh, I really enjoy this. And I've always loved to sing, and I've dabbled in acting, but never been very serious about it at this point. And I think playing Maria was the first time I was like, oh, I really like this. Like, I don't know what this means. But even at that point, I have battled the mindset of like, oh, this isn't practical, and continued to battle that after that point. So to me, that was the climax of my creative story then. I thought, okay, I got the lead in my high school musical, but I won't be doing this out after high school. Like, now is time to be like an adult. So to me at the time, it was like maybe a great release, but I didn't I didn't allow myself to like go further into that until later. So
Until later. I like how you set up that cliffhanger. You get my jam.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say this, and I think we need to set the record straight. Being an artist is not practical. It's not.
No.
And I think sometimes we want to try to neuter or castrate or tame art, but it's actually a lion. It's not a house cat. Like, I mean, hey, listen, we need all kinds of human beings on the planet doing all kinds of things. But let me tell you something. To be an artist is to choose to be wild for the rest of your life, to color and to paint outside of the box. And there's nothing worse, I think, that you can do to your own spirit or to the spirit of art itself than to try to tame it. It's not meant to be tamed. Speaking of not being tamed, superhero man. By the way, parenthetically, who's your favorite superhero?
Oh, Batman.
Easy.
No
Easy.
hesitation.
Notice what he did there? He's like, I'm the Batman.
Oh, no. I mean, it's Batman.
All right, man. So fast forward, you're dressing up and running around as the Dark Knight, around your house. But fast forward to a little bit later in your journey, a little bit like Jenna. When do you begin to consider, hey, I think this is more than play. It will always be play, but more than play for me. Maybe this is something I want to pursue. When does that start to happen for you, Noah?
Yeah, I'm going to hop on the Sound of Music train.
Do it.
My sophomore year of high school, I auditioned for Sound of Music and was Uncle Mac. So how can love survive? That song. And up until then, every musical I'd done, I was a background role because I was so freaking nervous to sing in front of people. I was like, shower is go time, but on a stage, no way. And so I got that role and I remember being so incredibly nervous. We did like a preview for a high school assembly. And at this point, I hadn't told anybody that I was in musical theater, only my really close friends. And I remember doing my song in front of the whole school. So I had no choice but for everyone that I thought was cool, all the insecurity, everything, to perform in front of them. And the song ends and I just hear one of my best friends just stand up and go, yeah, Noah, which honestly, I think of that story now and that just feels like Jesus, but him just going, yeah, Noah, everybody cheers. And it's not about the cheering, but it was that. And then the following year we did Drowsy Chaperone and I was Aldolfo. So that's where you get the Antonio Banderas voice. And there, I stand by the fact that there's truly nothing like live performance of all different kinds of your heart, of music, dance, and acting on a stage. It's so lively. And so it's something that I really loved doing. It was something that I wanted to do more. But honestly, if I'm being really honest, I don't think it became this, I have to do it. This is inseparable from me and the way God designed me until this year at BCA.
Well, I want to say something because you said something and did something that I think is both beautiful, humble, and not uncommon for, I think, believers, is to say, it's not all about the cheering, but, I just got this impression in this picture that I think it's way more about the cheering than sometimes we want to admit to ourselves. And what I mean by that is like, what is cheering but like an expression of love and of affection and of adoration and of saying like, well done, man. Like you put in the work and you had the courage. And I'm going to go Yiddish here for a second, chutzpah, to like step out in front of people in high school, to step in front of everybody. That's just a big, bold thing. It's not easy. It takes courage to live and to step out on the edge of the stage. And man, I was just thinking like, I imagine like in heaven, when we do something that's according to our design and what God wants for us, don't the scriptures talk about how the heavens celebrate us?
It's so
from
kingdom.
There here. It's so kingdom to be celebrated. And so,
and I think that cheering, could be like Holy Spirit planted encouragement.
Come on.
Because you say you remember that.
That's right.
It's a moment that sticks out.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's a moment that you've returned to. It's still there in your mind. It's that encouragement of like, okay, that was when that seed was planted of maybe I can do this. Like if you ever had a doubt, like, you're like, okay, I remember that.
Speaking of celebration, talk to me about maybe a moment that was impactful for you where you felt seen, affirmed, celebrated as an artist.
Well, hopping on the applause thing, it was the first time I had come back to the Bay Area with a Broadway national tour.
Of what?
This one, the first time was with Jesus Christ Superstar.
And who were you playing?
I was playing Mary Magdalene.
Yes, you were.
Yes.
Okay. Come on.
And it was the first time I had come back. So anybody in the Bay Area that knew me, my childhood, everything else, they were at the theater.
And to brag on my wife, this was with Ted Neely, who I playfully like to call the quote unquote original Jesus.
Yes, he was in the movie. He was in the movie, and he was still playing Jesus at
He had
the
done
time.
thousands of performances, and I mean, people
That's pretty
would
cool.
come to see Ted perform Jesus, like they were like Jesus fans.
Yes,
Yes.
Absolutely.
And so you come back to
Absolutely.
your hometown, a little bit like how
Yes.
Jesus wraps around back to his hometown. And what was that experience like
Yeah.
for you?
Well, I remember my Mary's interest is she's in the wings, but as she walks on stage, she's already singing. And so I remember I'm like, okay, here we go. I got people in the audience tonight, which is on national tour. That doesn't happen because you're traveling all the time. So
Yeah.
to be home and to have people out there, even though I hadn't seen them in quite a while, they were there. And so I sing it and they just heard my voice and it got so loud in the theater, which is not typical theater behavior, you know what I mean? But you can get away with it at Jesus Christ Superstar because it's like that
It's a rock
rock
concert.
opera musical thing. And I'm like, I can't even hear the orchestra right now. I'm like, yes, I've made it. Like that was a moment I'm like, because, to return to your hometown and, you know what I mean, to have that kind of thing and you're the only female lead in the show. I mean, that was a long way from the dancer that most people knew me as.
There you go.
Right?
Jesus
So,
Christ
amazing.
Superstar. Listen, theology aside, and I get it, there's a lot of things that we could parse out, maybe even borderline heretical in Jesus Christ Superstar. But I have to tell you, that opening electric guitar, bunk, dunk, dunk,
Bum,
dunk,
bum,
dunk,
bum.
dunk.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
you just want to
Oh,
stand up
it
and
is.
cheer.
Yeah,
So good.
it
It's
is sealed in
electrifying.
time.
It's
Yes,
electrifying.
It is. Yes, it is.
I had a kind of a homecoming moment for me. I didn't do a lot of like touring shows and that kind of stuff, but you and I got to work together on a musical called Tin Pan Alley, which where I got to play Irving Berlin, and I got to go home to the Coconut Grove Playhouse, a place that I drove past, and because we were in a cultured family, we didn't necessarily go attend the theater. And I remember coming home to do that and having my high school teachers, Dr. Riley and Peggy Hall, come to watch me perform in that. And yeah, I don't think there's anything more meaningful than kind of coming home and sharing what you've fallen in love with. Jen, I want to pick back up in your story. You cliffhanged on the until moment. When does your creativity take a turn, and when do you start taking that leap of faith?
Yeah. So there was another little bite from the Holy Spirit I got, which is when I moved here to Reading to do a different school in Reading, BSSM. And so I was doing that school, and this was 9 years ago, probably. And Fab was teaching a weekly class. This was before BCA existed. And so I had a friend that was like, we should go to this acting class. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess I like to act. Like I've done it a little bit. Sure, let's go. But this was my first introduction to acting, to real acting, not just my choir teacher directing us in a musical in high school.
Smile, Jenna, smile.
Yeah.
Who I love and am so thankful for because she planted so many seeds in me. But that was when I was really bit by the bug. But that wasn't the end of my story either there, because I then again got very afraid of I want a family and I want, there's all these things that I want and I don't know how they line up into really pursuing this. So it wasn't until 5 years later that I came to the decision to do BCA. And it was I had been just living life. I got married, which has been beautiful, and was working a dream job that I loved. I thought it was the best job I've ever worked, but I was really kind of unhappy because I wasn't being creative at all. And I don't think I'd ever even identified myself as a creative, until this kind of transformation moment. I just realized I was unhappy, and the Lord started speaking to me about, it's you've really shut down this part of yourself that you loved, brought you so much life. So I started just praying about it, and I had followed, BCA had started a few years back, and I had followed along, and I had so many friends that went through it, and different points along the journey was can I do that?
You're
I
kind of
don't
like
know.
peeking over the fence.
Exactly,
Should I-
peeking over the fence. Like, is that that's crazy. That's crazy. I can't do that. But this time I just felt such a strong urge from the Holy Spirit and such a just like opening of my heart when I imagined jumping into this. It was overwhelming, and I knew I had to do it, and I knew it needed to be now. Like, I have to do this now, and it has to be all in. I talked to Fab, and he said, "Well, do you want to just do the certificate, or what? Like, you can do the bachelor's degree if you want. It's totally up to you." I was like, "I think I have to do the bachelor's degree. I think I have to like invest in this, so I can't get scared and turn around and not do it." And it was the best thing I ever did. Yeah.
You know, the thing that comes to mind as you share your story, Jenna, and your step of courage and this leap of faith is that I think sometimes we think that the dream is like an extra appendage or like the frosting on the cake. The thing that I just kept hearing the Lord say is your dream is your design.
Mm-hmm.
And your design is your dream. It's like you are designed to do this thing. And like no other creature, like, I mean, I don't find a lot of giraffes who are like, you know what I'd like to be? I'd like to be short. You know, like every giraffe's like, no, I'm going to munch on those top leaves. You know what I mean? Like there are no other creatures that deny their design. And I think the Lord does that because I think like love, he wants us to choose to live in that design. Noah, when do you finally decide to double down, Texas Hold'em, Batman style, and just go full Dark Knight on becoming an actor?
I'm going to be totally real. My entire life, I was told by people that I was going to be an actor. And I would get done with shows and parents would come up and say, "That was so awesome. See you on the big screen," or "See your name on billboards," or what every other person who wants to pursue acting as a kid hears from parents. But I didn't actually know like why I wanted to do it. Was this something that I was actually called to, or was it things that people were just telling me I was going to be? I have a knack for it, but let's see. And I ended up applying for BCA because I'm like, I guess I'm continuing my journey, and I was nervous. I wasn't sure if it was the right decision, and I'm there. And Fab Altamora is asking us all, why did you come here? Why did you want to be an actor? You better have a reason because you're signing up for 3 years. And I'm at the end of the line and I'm like, I have to come up with a reason right now. Because all I have is that I just like doing it. It's fun, which is a good reason.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets to me. And as I start speaking, I'm saying, you know, my whole life I'm going to these schools or I'm going to classes or I'm talking to other people in theater or acting, and they talk about, I can't live without it. I can't do anything with it. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, I feel like I could be like a youth pastor. I took an ecology class. That was fun. I could go into ecology. And every single time I did it, if I was leading the youth, I would want to, let's do skits or let's do something like that. I know, forbidden word. Or
stop cursing, Noah. Stop cursing.
I know, I'm sorry. I promised I wouldn't.
Inappropriate.
Or in ecology, like, ooh, let's do a project, but let's find a way to like do a little movie. And it was like, no, the center of my heart is like, I always want to tell a story. Like I just wanted to tell a story. And it was in that moment that I was answering the question that I was like, I can't not do it. I try and do something else. And I kind of like acting snakes its way into it. I just want to do it. That's like the end goal for me. I just want to do it. And so, if that answers the question, that was really just the big thing that coming into this year and for the rest of this year set me on this course of honestly just redemption for everything that's happened in acting. And not that a ton of bad has happened, but instead of holding it in this one spot where God's in the other, pursuing them both in the same line has been groundbreaking in my life and in my pursuit of the craft.
I think about that response whenever I get asked the question and people are maybe torn, maybe you're torn between, I love this, I want to do that. I mean, it's not uncommon because creatives are so creative. Sometimes we don't know what the heck we want to do with our creativity because everything is fascinating and interesting, and I could make a musical out of anything, you know what I mean? Which is very true. But I often say to people, okay, when you're in the shower, when you're in the car at a red light, when your head hits the pillow, what can't you help but do, dream, or think about? try to catch yourself when you're daydreaming, when you're drifting around, because man, your heart has a way.
Wow.
If you're not currently in that design, the Lord's just good, because it's like a record, right? Your dream's just always playing. It's always playing. And if we get quiet enough and we shut the other stupid lies up, right? And we listen, we go, oh, that song is never going to stop playing.
Mm-hmm.
I must sing this song. Jen, I want to ask you about maybe the most transformational or pivotal moment. You've been on a journey with us now, a journey that's led you to BC, a journey with creativity, but you walk through these doors and every day you're taking risks. You're showing up with grit and discipline. But maybe share with us, if you would, a moment that transformed you from the inside out. And I know that you're participating in the music theater program in the area of focus. And I just wonder if any of those moments of transformation happened to have happened while dancing or acting or singing.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to pinpoint like single moments in the journey that I feel like is transformative every single day.
Wow.
Absolutely, there have been moments in acting through song with the lovely Lisa over here that have challenged me and gotten me out of my head in such a way where I'm able to like surpass the blocks in me and be able to communicate through song and tell a story through song. So I mean, that's definitely a thing. But the biggest breakthrough in BCA for me has been, I tend to like have always cared what people think and wanted to please people. And I try not to, but it rears its ugly head sometimes. And through BCA, which just acting in general is going to stretch you every single day. There's one day in our Wholehearted Artist class and we were praying, and I think I had just had like a performance that just went really badly and I just didn't feel great and was feeling all of this judgment towards myself. And our teacher, Ella, was just having us worship, and she just was like, I think you guys need to worship. So we were worshiping and people just started praying out loud and crying out. And I just started yelling, who cares? And
I think
There
I've
you go.
actually prayed that same prayer.
and it has become like my mantra, and it has just my prayer all the time. It has brought me so much just like freedom in my craft and in every sphere of it, singing, acting, and dancing, to just be like, who cares? Like, if I'm not going to give it my all, who is? Like, and who cares if somebody thinks it's good or bad? Or like, no good creativity comes out of trying to please someone. And that's what I'm learning. Like, I can't ever be creating something for someone else. It has to be for me, and giving all of that unto God, actually, as a worship. Like, that's what it has to be about. And who cares? So I would say that's been my biggest breakthrough, and it's carried over into life as well.
Well, that's
I mean,
the beautiful thing.
yeah.
You know, I once had an actor say to me, how do I become a better listener as an actor? And I said, well, just become a better listener in life. I
Right.
said, because
Yeah.
it turns out you're going to be in life, not on stage, about 99% of your life. And she's like, well, I struggle listening. And I said, I've noticed, because you're sitting in my class and you're drifting there as well, which means it's probably happening to you and you're acting as well. And I said, hey, listen, just remember this. Practice being a good listener out there. And when those moments present themselves. So if I care too much about the wrong things in my acting, chances are it's probably showing up in life as well, right? And I'm sure that it's had a beautiful impact on your marriage, on your most important relationships, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's been just completely transformative, because, I mean, if you're living your life for other people, not just if you're trying to create something, but if you're making any decision in life to please others or worrying about what they think, you're just never going to be you. You're never going to fully be yourself. And so I've found so much settling into myself from that moment, and just kind of walking that out. So
no, I want to go in a related, but as we land the plane, a slightly different one, only because I kind of know what you just did and where you just came from. We had an online workshop at BCA. We do all kinds of free workshops, and Lisa just did a free online workshop for music theater. And so poke around and find those. Sometimes we re-release them and we get them out there. And such valuable, profound work happens when people from around the world come and join you and our other faculty on these online workshops. But I was really fascinated by this, and I haven't had an opportunity to ask you why you chose the song that you did for the music theater workshop. I feel like the choices that we make, the things that we choose as an artist to invest in, sometimes confess things that we are trying to figure out or explore. What piece did you choose for the online workshop? Why? And what did performing that piece do for you? What piece did you choose?
Yeah. I chose Mr. Cellophane from Chicago.
And for those that don't know that particular piece, because it's such a unique, beautiful, odd piece, what's a little bit of the story? Who is this man, and what is he struggling with?
Yeah, it's almost like a soliloquy in the middle of this story where nobody else is really involved. Suddenly, the man is on a stage by himself.
And who is this man? Describe him for us.
He is the husband of the main character, and she's kind of using him for all of her means and ends. Specifically for this workshop, it was our very first workshop that we did for this very first acting through song class. We were exercising the muscles of prioritizing acting and telling story and telling the truth. So we were actually kind of creating our own story around the song rather than following.
And it's almost, the class is built around the concept that you're going to choose this solo, this song that you could just sing the beautiful melody, have the music kind of pull you along, have the music tell the audience what to feel.
Yes.
But instead in this class, how do you approach a song? How do you see it first? Do you approach it as a monologue, as a character first, and then the music comes?
Definitely as a monologue. We were talking about this in the workshop earlier. Is I've learned that as an actor, sometimes there's inside out work where it's the emotional, it's all of that, and it comes outwardly, and sometimes there's outside in. And so what's really helped me with musical theater, and honestly a lot of acting, and especially with this song, is physicality, building that world, and it all starts to come inside. And so we start singing, and I got my knees pointed inward, I got my hood over my head tightened, hard to even get off, and suddenly it feels, there's this ease of all of a sudden I feel like nobody can see me, and I feel like I'm almost trying to swim upward in like jello or something just to get to the surface for someone to hear me. And I mean, who hasn't felt that at some point in their life? Who hasn't felt that about the things that they're passionate about, not feeling heard? That's one of the biggest struggles of humanity, is we want to be heard and known and seen and loved when we're heard and known. Being heard and known and not loved is terrifying.
And this song, the title, Mr. Cellophane, what's the meaning of that?
He feels like he's seen through, walked by, and his significance is never noticed. And so it's this journey, it's this arc in 2 minutes of him going from nobody sees me, this is the way I've lived my life, into breaking out of this box that people, and honestly himself, has put himself in, and coming to this place where he is able to be fully seen, and it's this breakthrough. And I just loved how the song, first of all, the character, he's a sweet guy, and so it was fun to base a scene off of that as well. I'm standing there and I'm like, I just sang someone's breakthrough. It's a privilege. It's fun, and we've all felt it before. So it was cool to do a musical artistic storytelling.
I had the privilege of getting to watch both of you on the trial run of this workshop. So this was a second take today, and I got to see you both sing. And I think what people don't, often the caricature, I think, of musical theater is jazz hands and the show-stopping moments. And, certainly that stuff takes place, but music theater has evolved to be this really complex, nuanced, layered, sophisticated art form where pieces like what you explore in class every day, every week, you take artists on journeys of breakthrough, not just creatively, but I've seen deep healing happen for people. Of all the students, of all the moments, and we've explored these two guys. Is there what is maybe one of the more powerful moments that you've seen of transformation or redemption through this class and through music theater that you remember?
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for moving past your voice and just speaking. And when you exercise volume and a melody, it you have to push past sometimes like a comfort place. Maybe there's a wall there, maybe you know it or you don't know it. But I think because every actor at BCA has to take this class, because it's not a singing class, it's about pushing yourself past what you've limited yourself or what any boundaries you've set in place for yourself, right? So it uses the voice in that way, but it really just gets you connected to the inside, to your instincts, into your impulses, in a way that you can use your voice to create from.
So powerful. So powerful. I want to dream a little bit about the future, and I'm going to stay on you for a second, and then I'll be coming to you guys. Where do you see the music theater program? Because the response has been through the roof. We've had students that weren't signed up for the program in droves, dozens, just say, I got to do this thing. I got to do this thing. And part of it is because they've gotten the privilege of tasting this acting through song class. And so they got like a taster, and they're like, I need more of that. So we've seen, enrollment and auditions coming in from around the world. And if you're feeling that stirring in your heart, I want to encourage you to take that leap of faith and audition for the music theater program. We still have some slots left for the upcoming school year. But as a founder, as the creator of the music theater program, where do you want to see it in 5 or 10 years from now?
Well, it's interesting because I take it seriously.
You?
Right?
You take music theater seriously?
No, I take it seriously, but at the same time, it's so fun and so much joy comes from it that it deserves a place. Like, we need to have a place with creativity that we can enjoy fun. We can experience love in different ways.
Wouldn't you say even specifically in the church
dance
as well, that the church needs to learn how to sing and laugh and dance and be wild again?
And be bigger than life. We are spirit-filled believers, and we're creators, and we are in his design.
Yeah.
Jesus loves music theater. I can't wait to see him do a show. I can't wait to see him sing and see him dance. What does that sound like? What does that look like?
Yeah.
Wow.
But we get the privilege of partnering with Holy Spirit here. And we get to get a taste of that here on earth. Be bigger than life, to be as big and powerful as our Creator.
I can't wait to see Jesus at karaoke. Like, can you imagine? Like,
what song would he choose?
You did not just take musical theater and pull it down to karaoke.
No.
Did
I
you?
know.
We're going to put it together tonight.
Such a pure response.
Okay, fair enough. Sorry, we're going to cut that part out. No, but go with me for a second. Like, so here's the deal. This is why I was responding to this. I remember once asking a group of our students. It was actually Hunter and Amy's class, who have gone on to have amazing careers as instructors and teachers, and they've taught at our school, and they're starting their own movements and their own things. But I remember asking this question, and I actually didn't know the answer to it. And I thought to myself, all right, so if story needs to have pain and sorrow and conflict and obstacles, right? Because stories here on earth are built on the premise that it's about a hero, a protagonist, maybe Batman, who needs to overcome certain things to get to the victory, right? All right, but now we're in heaven. And what do the scriptures say in Revelation? All right, it's going to be this place now where there's no more sorrow, there's no more tears, because all things, like N.T. Wright, the Christian thinker N.T. Wright says that everything, once we get to heaven, will have been put right. And so now I asked this question that I actually didn't know the answer to, which is, if we don't have conflict, if we don't have obstacles, if there isn't the dark night of the soul in story anymore because we're in heaven, what on earth, or what in heaven, is story going to be? It was quiet. And then I'll never forget Hunter's answer. He's like, I know. I said, please tell me, because I just asked the question that I have no idea. He says, we'll get to ask him the why behind all those moments that we never understood. And I thought to myself, can you imagine sitting down with Peter and asking him, so why did you deny him on that night? or any one of the number of people. Because if you're looking for me in heaven, I know you'll be hanging out with Mahalia Jackson somewhere where there's a gospel choir somewhere, but I might be going.
Well,
around
that's what I was thinking. I'm like tapping into the power of the voice. And in heaven, if your voice is just unleashed,
Come on.
you can sound like, I don't even know. That's what I'm pulling down to earth.
I love that.
And I always say, could you imagine like if you're dancing and you jeté and you don't have to come down for like a minute? You know what I mean? Or you're doing pirouettes and you're just pirouetting and you're like, yay, you're twirling and pirouetting. There's no need to stop.
I'm going to hold the highest notes from Jersey Boys forever. That's what I'm going to do.
Right? I'm like the best dance partner, the best scene partner.
Come on.
You're going to find them in heaven. But we're going to do our best here on earth to tap into that.
When heaven invades earth is going to look like some show-stopping moment. So I'm going to come to you first, Jenna. You're going to take us out 5-10 years from now. Where do you want to be, Mr. Cellophane?
Yeah.
Just to
Lay it on us.
Let's keep it on the hero train.
Come on.
I mean, I would love to be a superhero. That's just little kid Noah's dream. And so there's part of it that sounds cheesy to say, but I want to honor that part of little Noah. But you have the superhero genre kind of pushing towards the direction of sometimes really dark and sometimes really formulaic, and I'll always just go and see them because I love superheroes. But something I'm so grateful for growing up being into that thing is learning to stand up for the vulnerable and learning to sacrifice yourself for others, which who does that better than anybody? Jesus. And so I would love to either, whether it be a series, a movie, whatever it be in a role like that kids are able to leave inspired to do the right thing instead of, oh, wasn't it cool, that like dark take on the character? And it's like, yeah, but like kind of feeling like you need to go home and take a shower. How about something that it pushes people towards the kingdom, even if they're not knowing the name Jesus in that exact moment? And so that's a specific dream.
I love that, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I often think about the superhero genre and I think to myself, they're actually exploring the supernatural.
Yeah.
Superpowers are anointings. I mean, what other explanation do I have that I can give you a word of knowledge and know something about you that only you know and God knows, and somehow God uses me to tell you something like that, or a prophetic word or supernatural healing? I mean, what other genre, I think, portrays that more beautifully and more powerfully than the superhero comic world? I think they're just scratching at humanity knowing that it's more than just this earthly body. Yeah. And that we transform in our dreams, we transform into the superheroes all the time. I love that about you, man. And I can't wait to see your superhero films. Jenna, you're going to take us out. Prophesy future here, 5-10 years from now. Where does Maria Von Trapp want to be?
Oh, so sweet. My biggest, craziest dream is to be in a movie musical directed by Baz Luhrmann.
Ooh.
I love his work so much. And I don't know what it would be, but that would be like ultimate crazy dream. Like that would be amazing. But ultimately, I just want to still be burning for this in 5 to 10 years. I want to still be doing it and auditioning and being creative. And even if that's just being in community theater wherever I am and having my family or whatever that looks like, I know now that I'm not going to let that ever die down in me again. And I do have big dreams, but I just want to keep burning for sure.
Oh, well, that is a big dream, to keep burning. There's so many of us that I think stop burning, or we look back at the end of our days with regret that we didn't burn, or that with fires that we now can't maybe necessarily tend to. So I applaud all of your courage, babe. It's been great sitting you with for these 2 music theater episodes.
It's been my pleasure.
Awesome. Hey, often during these podcasts and these talks, it's like when you hear Billy Graham hop to town and, you're already saved, but something just starts stirring and you don't ignore that trembling in your soul. It's your design and your dream crying out, reminding you of how God made you. And don't despise small beginnings. Every single one of our artist stories so far began in closets with action figures and with VHSs with dad and mom. That's how these journeys go. Back and listen to any A-list actor now, and it all begins in the context of family, in the safety and the sanctuary of your bedroom, of your closet, of the playground. And so I want to encourage you to seek the Lord, that if those dreams have gotten put on a shelf and gotten dusty, just listen to him. I want you to come to the end of your life and not just have Jesus say, well done, but that you would look back and that, like Noah, you would hear all of the angels just celebrating and applauding what you did with your life. Take that leap of faith. Your Heavenly Father, he's a creative, he's a storyteller. He is so faithful to catch you when you take that leap of faith. So do that. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. Thanks, guys, for hanging out on Storia, where storytellers disrupt. Please remember to like, follow, download, and give us that 5-star review, and we'll see you soon.